The silent arrival. The galaxy was not quiet that night. Every sensor, every listening post, every watch station across the stars lit up with alarms. Something had appeared at the edge of space, something vast and dark, something that carried the cold signature of Earth. At first, no one believed it. The empires had fought humans before. They remembered Earth's fleets, brave but small, desperate but weak compared to the vast coalitions of alien power. So when their long-range scanners picked up only one single ship, the admirals laughed. How could humanity think one vessel could stand against thousands? But laughter turned into silence when the images came through. The ship was bigger than anything ever recorded in human history. It drifted out of the void like a silent giant, its hull black as night, broken only by faint lines of glowing blue that pulsed like veins under metal skin. It didn't move, it didn't speak. It just hovered there in the void, as if watching the galaxy and waiting. Across alien command halls, whispers began. Some said it was a bluff, a half-built relic launched to scare them. Others whispered about old human legends, stories of weapons built during their darkest wars. Machines too powerful to ever use. They called it madness, they called it arrogance. But no one could explain why the humans had sent just one. An alien admiral, proud and sharp-eyed, slammed his clawed hand on the table. "They mock us," he declared, his voice echoing in the chamber. "They send a single vessel to our borders expecting us to tremble. They think fear will save them, but we will show them what true power looks like." And yet, when the order was given to move fleets closer, no one moved quickly. The lone warship did not advance. It did not retreat. It simply waited. Its silence was worse than a threat, worse than open fire. It felt like a predator crouching in the shadows, eyes fixed on its prey, patient, steady, unafraid. On distant worlds, civilians saw the broadcasts. The holoscreens showed the image of the massive ship drifting above the stars. Children asked their parents why the humans had sent only one. Parents had no answers, and leaders avoided the question. A merchant captain passing through the system sent out a private transmission, his voice shaking. "It is not a fleet," he said. "It is not a weapon of war. It is something else. It feels alive, like it is breathing, like it is waiting for us to make a mistake." Still, the alien empires tried to calm themselves. They reminded each other of the past, how easily human colonies were crushed, how their fleets burned under alien guns. But in the back of every mind lingered a thought they could not silence. What if this ship was different? For 3 days the warship stayed motionless. No weapons fired, no signals sent, no crew visible. Only its shadow stretched across the stars, reminding everyone who looked that Earth had chosen to speak, not with words, but with silence. Inside, the alien High Council, fear finally cracked through pride. "What is it waiting for?" one demanded, his voice rising. "Why do they not send a fleet? Why this lone giant?" Another whispered. The oldest among them, his scales faded with age, leaned forward and spoke quietly. "They want us to strike first," he said. "They want us to believe it is weak, they want us to test it, and when we do, we may not live to regret it." His words were met with scoffs, but no one dared look directly at the image of the warship on the display. Even the bravest of commanders lowered their eyes, unable to stare at it for long. Something about the ship felt unnatural, as if it was not built by hands but by the will of something greater. On the 7th day, the galaxy held its breath. The lone warship moved for the first time. Just a small shift, a slow turn, its massive body rotating to face the gathered fleets. Every alien officer froze, every sensor screamed warnings, every heartbeat quickened, and then silence again. The ship locked its position, its weapons hidden, its engines quiet, but its gaze fixed directly upon the empires. It did not need to fire, it did not need to speak, because in that moment, every commander, every soldier, every child who saw it, knew the truth. The lone human warship had not come to negotiate, it had not come to warn, it had come to judge, and the galaxy trembled. Whispers of fear. The galaxy was not laughing anymore. The first days after the human warship appeared, leaders mocked, Soldiers boasted and citizens shrugged. But now whispers had spread to every corner of the stars. Why would Earth send only one ship? Why was it so large, so silent, so terrifying in its stillness? In the markets of distant worlds, merchants lowered their voices. They told each other stories of human experiments long buried, of weapons that broke the laws of physics, of machines, designed not to fight wars but to end civilizations. Children repeated these rumors like ghost tales before sleep, and parents silenced them with fear in their eyes. For the first time in centuries, the mighty empires felt something they had never felt toward humans. Doubt, a coalition intelligence officer, pale-skinned and trembling, dug through old archives. There, hidden in forbidden files, he found fragments of Earth's darkest history, words scratched into records like warnings. Project Leviathan, a human plan to build not fleets but gods of war, ships so powerful they would never need allies. Most believed the project was abandoned, locked away, destroyed before it could threaten the galaxy. But now, as the lone warship floated like a shadow over the stars, those whispers grew into terror. Alien generals gathered in secret chambers. Their voices shook as they argued. "It is only a bluff," one barked, slamming his fist on the table. "If they had such power, they would have used it long ago." Another leaned forward, her eyes cold. Or perhaps they never needed to use it. Perhaps one ship was always enough. Fear spread faster than truth. On mining colonies, workers refused to leave their bunkers, terrified the human warship would appear above them without warning. On military stations, soldiers stared at the sky instead of their drills, waiting for the black shape to blot out their stars. And in the palaces of emperors, dreams turned to nightmares. Dreams of a single ship burning worlds in silence. Even the bravest began to waver. One fleet commander, known for his iron heart, stood before his crew and declared boldly, "We will destroy it if it dares to move against us." But when the broadcast ended, he sat alone in his quarters, hands shaking, his eyes never leaving the image of that black vessel. He whispered to himself, again and again, "Why only one?" Then came the first test. A scouting squadron of 5 alien ships was ordered to approach. They moved cautiously, sensors wide, weapons armed, voices steady but strained. At first, nothing happened. The human warship did not turn, did not speak, did not fire. It just floated like a shadow carved into the stars. The scouts grew braver, closing the distance, sending taunts across open channels. "Earth sends us a ghost," one captain jeered. But in the middle of his words, every signal cut out. 5 ships, 5 crews, 500 lives, gone in less than a second. No explosion, no wreckage, no scream of metal. One moment they were there, the next they were erased as if they had never existed. Across the galaxy, the whispers became screams. If one warship could erase fleets without firing a visible shot, what else could it do? Some claimed it was a weapon of time itself. Others swore it could bend gravity. Some believed it was powered by a captive star. The truth didn't matter. What mattered was fear, and fear ruled the galaxy now. The High Council of the Coalition met in darkness, every empire present, every leader desperate for answers. "We must unite," one emperor said, his golden robes trembling with his body. "If we do not, that ship will take us one by one." But unity came hard to those who once mocked humans. Old pride and rivalries cracked their plans, even as their voices quivered with hidden terror. Meanwhile, Earth remained silent. No transmissions, no threats, no demands. Only the warship, drifting patiently, a monument of human intent. The silence was worse than any declaration of war, because silence could not be negotiated with, and in that silence every empire began to ask the same question. Not, can we defeat the humans, but when will they decide to destroy us? The whispers grew until they reached even the smallest corners of civilization, on forgotten moons, on isolated stations, on barren mining belts. People spoke of the lone warship like a ghost story. They gave it names: the Silent Judge, the Shadow of Earth, the Black Star. And with every name, fear grew sharper, for the galaxy had fought humans before. They had crushed their fleets, burned their colonies, enslaved their worlds. But never, not once, had they faced just one ship. And in their hearts, the empires knew the truth. One ship was all that was needed. The galaxy trembled in its whispers, and the whispers were only the beginning. First contact, first warning. The galaxy had whispered for too long. Fear had grown like a shadow, stretching across stars, choking empires, silencing proud voices. But whispers could not last forever. Sooner or later, someone had to act. And when they did, the galaxy would never forget what followed. The coalition of empires gathered its fleets, hundreds of ships armed with plasma cannons, railguns, and shields strong enough to block a supernova. They had burned human colonies before. They had crushed Earth's defenses in the past. So they told themselves this was no different. This warship is only one ship, they repeated. One ship cannot stand against the galaxy. But inside their hearts, the admirals knew. This was no ordinary ship. It had erased 5 scouts in silence without effort, without even a trace of wreckage, and it had done so without firing a visible weapon. That truth burned inside their chests no matter how loud they shouted their pride. The fleets approached the warship carefully. Their formations spread like wings across the stars, thousands of cannons aimed, engines humming. On every channel, the alien soldiers whispered prayers, curses, and promises of revenge, but their voices were hollow. They were not facing an enemy. They were facing something unknown. The human warship remained still. Its black hull glowed faintly with that same eerie blue pulse. It turned slowly, as if watching them, measuring them, weighing them. Then, for the first time since its arrival, the ship spoke. Its voice was not human, not machine, but something deeper. It vibrated through metal, skin, and bone, shaking hearts as much as it shook ships. Across every channel, across every frequency, it spoke only 12 words. Leave now. This is your first and only warning. Leave now. The admirals laughed on open comms, but their eyes betrayed them. They had expected threats, anger, demands, not silence, not calm, not the cold voice of something that did not fear them. They believed silence could be broken by fire. The order was given. The first volley of plasma fire streaked across the stars, burning white and gold. Thousands of beams struck the human warship. Explosions lit up space. Shockwaves rippled. Alarms screamed. When the light faded, the admirals leaned forward, waiting to see wreckage, but there was nothing. Not a scratch, not a scar, not even a flicker of damage. The human warship drifted on, untouched, unmoved, silent. It was as if the weapons had fired into the void itself. And then, the silence broke. The blue veins across the warship's hull glowed brighter. Its shadow seemed to grow larger, darker, swallowing stars behind it. One of the alien captains screamed across comms, "It's powering up! Brace yourselves." But no cannon fired, no missile launched. Instead, reality itself shifted. The space around the alien fleets bent, their ships stretched, twisted, their sensors went blind. Crews screamed as gravity spun, as time bent for fractions of seconds, and then it was over. Thousands of ships floated where fleets once stood, but only silence remained. Half the fleet was gone. No wreckage, no survivors, no explosions. They had been erased, as if written in sand and swept away by the tide. The surviving ships broke formation, panic flooding comms. "Fall back! Fall back!" Captains cried, their voices raw with terror. But before they could retreat, the warship spoke again. "We warned you. Leave now." This time the words shook harder, not just in ships, but in souls. Every soldier, every admiral, every child watching the broadcast from safe worlds felt those words burn into their minds. It was not a threat, it was a truth. The warship did not want to fight, but if pushed, it would erase entire civilizations without hesitation. The coalition council chamber fell into chaos. Some leaders shouted for more fleets, others screamed for peace. One voice rose above the noise, trembling yet sharp. "We cannot fight this," the Emperor said. "This is not war, this is judgment." Across the galaxy, the message spread like fire. The humans had spoken. Their lone warship had given its first warning, and already thousands of alien ships were gone. No one knew what weapon had been used. No one knew what power lay inside that dark hull. But everyone knew one truth now. This was not the end. This was only the beginning. The hidden power, the galaxy was shaken. Entire fleets had vanished with no wreckage, no fire, no screams. The lone human warship had spoken only twice, and already empires trembled like frightened children. But whispers turned to desperate questions. What was this ship? What power could erase thousands of ships in a breath? In the hidden halls of the Coalition Council, the leaders argued. "It is a trick," one shouted, his scaled fists slamming the table. "They used cloaked bombs or hidden allies," another cried. But no evidence supported their words. The more they searched, the more the truth pressed down on them. This was not a trick, this was something greater. Archivists dug deeper into human records files thought long destroyed were pieced together in shadows. And there, buried under decades of lies, they found a name, Project Leviathan. The name spread through the council chamber like a curse. The humans had once built something too dangerous, too destructive. They had hidden it away even from themselves. And now, after centuries, it had returned. The reports told fragments of horror, weapons that bent space until it tore, engines that could consume stars to power themselves, shields layered not in metal but in dimensions no alien could understand. The project was said to be abandoned, locked behind the fear of humanity itself. Yet the lone warship hovering in silence was proof that the legends had lived. On the outer colonies, panic grew. Citizens stared at the holoscreens, whispering that the ship was alive. Some claimed they saw its blue veins pulse in rhythm with their own heartbeats. Others swore the shadows of the warship reached down to their planets, even across the void. Fear no longer needed evidence, it lived in every breath. Meanwhile, the remaining admirals prepared for war. They gathered another fleet, larger than before. With ships from every empire, 10,000 vessels armed to the teeth, their plan was simple. Overwhelm, outnumber, suffocate the warship with fire. But even as they spoke bravely, their voices cracked. They remembered the silence that followed, the first warning. They remembered how half a fleet had been erased without a trace. On the bridge of one alien dreadnought, the crew whispered among themselves. "Why does Earth send only one?" one asked. "Because one is all they need." Another answered quietly. The words spread through the crew like poison. No one admitted it. But in their hearts they knew it was true. Then came the second battle. The fleet encircled the warship. A wall of guns stretching across the void. Cannons armed, missiles loaded, engines roaring. The order was given. The sky lit up with endless fire. Every weapon humanity had once feared was unleashed. Explosions brighter than suns filled the black. For a moment the admirals dared to believe, but when the fire cleared, their hope died. The human warship stood untouched. Not a scar, not a crack, not even a flicker of damage. It had not even raised a shield because it did not need one. And then, the warship revealed a glimpse of its hidden power. Its blue veins flared, brighter, stronger, glowing like rivers of lightning. The space around it began to ripple. Stars bent in strange ways. Light twisted. Time itself seemed to stagger. Alien ships screamed as their instruments spun wild. Crew fell to the floors as gravity shifted without. Warning then. With a single pulse of energy, hundreds of ships vanished. No explosion, no fire, just silence. They were gone, like shadows erased by dawn. The survivors broke into chaos. Some fled. Some begged for mercy across comms. Some fired, blindly, desperate to hit something. The warship did not answer. It only turned slowly, its gaze fixed on the largest dreadnought. On its bridge, the admiral shook, his claws digging into the metal chair. Then, a voice filled his ship, calm and cold. "We asked for peace. You gave us war. This is our answer." The dreadnought's engines failed, its weapons shut down not from attack but from submission, as if the ship itself bowed before the human warship. All across the galaxy, people watched. They saw not just destruction but control. The human warship was not merely a weapon, it was a judge, choosing who lived and who vanished. The battle ended before it began, the fleet scattered, broken by terror. The warship did not pursue, it simply returned to silence, glowing faintly in the dark. And that silence was worse than any weapon, because the galaxy now knew the truth. The humans had not built a warship, they had built a god, and the god had awakened. The empires break. The galaxy had never seen such fear. Worlds that once mocked humanity now whispered the name of the warship like a curse. Soldiers who once laughed at Earth's weakness now trembled in silence, and rulers who once claimed to own the stars now prayed to survive another day. But pride does not die easily. The empires, desperate and afraid, came together in the greatest alliance ever seen. For centuries they had fought each other, spilling blood across countless systems. Now they united, not for glory, but for survival. They swore to destroy the lone human warship, for if they failed, they knew their empires would crumble one by one. 10,000 ships gathered in the void, colossal dreadnoughts, carriers the size of moons, cruisers armed with 1,000 guns. Their lights filled the darkness like a false galaxy. Voices rose in command halls, desperate but fierce. "This time we cannot fail," one general said. "This time we bury the humans." But even as they spoke, their voices cracked. They remembered the silence of the first warning. They remembered the destruction of their fleets without a trace, and deep in their hearts, they wondered if even 10,000 ships would be enough. The warship awaited them, still silent, still unmoving. A black giant glowing faintly blue, it did not flee, it did not hide, it simply waited, like a predator that had already decided the outcome of the hunt. The empires launched their strike. Thousands of ships surged forward, firing in unison. The void became fire, beams of plasma, missiles, rail slugs, weapons of every kind filled space with fury. Explosions painted the dark with false suns. For a moment it looked as if the human warship was swallowed by the storm, but when the light cleared, it remained untouched. The ship turned slowly, and the galaxy froze. Its blue veins pulsed brighter, glowing like rivers of lightning across its hull. Then the stars themselves seemed to twist. Gravity bent, light warped, the very fabric of space shook. The first line of alien ships screamed as their instruments went blind. Their hulls stretched, bent, and then vanished into nothing. Entire wings of cruisers disappeared in silence. No fire, no wreckage, just gone. The admirals stared in horror. Their fleets were not fighting a ship. They were fighting the laws of reality itself. The human warship spoke again. Its voice cut through the chaos like thunder through a storm. "You brought this upon yourselves. You wanted war, and war is what you will know." Panic spread through the fleets. Some ships fired wildly, others tried to flee. But space itself betrayed them. Their engines failed, their weapons locked, their shields collapsed. It was as if the warship commanded the stars themselves to obey. Then came the final strike. The warship unleashed a beam of light unlike anything seen before. It was not fire, not plasma, not energy. It was pure silence turned into power. The beam passed through fleets like a shadow, and wherever it touched, ships vanished. Thousands, gone in a single breath. The admirals broke. Voices screamed across comms, begging, cursing, weeping. Some swore loyalty to Earth if only they were spared. Others cursed humanity with their dying words. But none were heard. The warship did not answer. It did not negotiate, it only erased. When the battle ended, the greatest fleet in history was no more. Of 10,000 ships, only a handful survived, fleeing into the black. They did not flee as warriors, but as broken prey. And everywhere, the galaxy watched. On every screen, every channel, every planet, the sight was the same. The lone human warship standing against the greatest force the galaxy had ever built, and winning without effort. The empires shattered that day. All their pride, all their power, all their unity, broken by one silent ship. Rulers who once declared themselves gods now begged their ministers for answers. Generals who once swore victory now hid behind excuses, and entire populations whispered one truth: humanity had sent only one, because one was enough. The galaxy trembled, not just in fear of destruction, but in fear of what came next. For if this was only one ship, what else had Earth hidden in its silence? The message of Earth, the galaxy, was broken. The largest fleet ever built was gone, erased as if it had never existed. 10,000 ships, countless lives, countless empires, all shattered by a single vessel. And yet, the warship did not move. To chase did not strike at the survivors, did not burn their worlds. It remained floating in silence, as if waiting for something greater. On every world, civilians watched the aftermath in horror. Families clutched one another. Leaders locked themselves in palaces. Priests prayed to stars that no longer seemed divine. The name of humanity, once spoken with mockery, was now whispered with fear. But the silence was worse than the destruction, because silence left the question alive: what would Earth do next? Then it happened without warning. Every channel in the galaxy flickered. Every holoscreen, every comm, every broadcast signal was seized. From the grand palace halls to the smallest miner's cabin, the message of Earth filled the stars. The image appeared. The lone human warship, black and glowing blue, drifting against a sea of broken wreckage. Its presence filled every screen, every eye, every soul. And then the voice came, deep and steady, like thunder wrapped in calm. "This is humanity," the voice said. "For centuries you hunted us, mocked us, enslaved us. You thought we were weak. You thought our silence was fear. But you were wrong." The voice rolled across planets, shaking walls, shaking hearts. No translator was needed. Every species understood the words as if spoken in their own tongue. The warship continued. "We asked for peace and you gave us chains. We asked for friendship and you gave us fire. We asked for survival and you gave us war." Images flashed on screens: ruined human colonies, broken Earth ships, children crying in cages of alien steel. The galaxy was forced to face its sins. Then the voice grew colder, sharper. "You believed humanity would break, but humanity does not break. Humanity endures." The warship's blue veins blazed brighter, filling the galaxy with its glow. And then the final words came, words that burned into every mind across the stars. "We do not need fleets. We do not need armies. We are one, and one is enough." On alien worlds, silence fell like a heavy stone. Even the proudest rulers lowered their heads. They had seen their fleets vanish, their soldiers erased, their pride destroyed. Now they realized the truth. Humanity had never been weak. It had only been waiting, but the message was not done. The warship spoke again, calm, yet merciless. "We will not conquer your worlds. We will not enslave your people. We will do something greater. We will let you live." The words hit harder than any weapon, because mercy from such power was not kindness, it was dominance. The empires knew then they were no longer rulers of the galaxy. They were only allowed to exist because Earth had chosen it so. Across the stars, rebellion brewed within hearts. Some wanted to resist, to strike back, to prove they were not prey. But fear silenced them. They had seen what resistance brought: obliteration without trace. Others fell to their knees in worship. Temples rose overnight, not for alien gods, but for the lone warship, the silent judge. The galaxy had new faith now, a faith in fear. In secret councils, leaders begged for answers. What do the humans want? They cried, why only one ship? Why not fleets? Why not invasion? But no answer came, only silence. And silence was worse than truth. In that silence, rumors spread like wildfire. Some claimed the warship was not a ship at all, but a living machine, a guardian from Earth's past. Others swore it was the first of many, that Earth had built an entire fleet of leviathans waiting in the dark. And some whispered the most terrifying thought of all, that this was not humanity's strongest weapon, only their first warning. The galaxy trembled under the weight of the message, for the warship had done more than destroy fleets. It had destroyed hope. It had shown that the galaxy was no longer ruled by empires or coalitions. It was ruled by silence, the silence of Earth's answer. And in that silence, the galaxy waited, afraid to speak, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. Because everyone knew, if the warship spoke again, it would not be with words, it would be with fire. The trembling galaxy. The galaxy did not sleep. Worlds once filled with laughter now whispered in fear. Children no longer dreamed of alien heroes. They dreamed of the black warship, glowing blue in the night sky of their minds. Soldiers no longer spoke of victory, they spoke of survival. And rulers no longer claimed power, they prayed humanity would not look their way. The lone warship had spoken, its words had burned into every heart, its silence had crushed every empire. And now, the galaxy lived in terror of what it might do next. For days it did not move. It floated among the wreckage of 10,000 ships. Like a grave marker for the galaxy's pride, every broadcast showed its shadow, its glowing veins, its endless silence. And silence was worse than war, because silence could mean waiting. Silence could mean judgment. Silence could mean death. Then, without warning, the warship stirred. Engines older than empires flared, glowing brighter than suns. It did not turn back toward Earth. It moved forward, deeper into alien space. A wave of panic spread instantly. Citizens screamed. Leaders begged. Fleets scrambled. But none dared fire, none dared even approach. Because they knew what would happen if they tried. Planets broadcast desperate messages. "We are loyal to Earth," they cried. "We will serve humanity, spare us." Others offered tribute, ships, resources, entire worlds. But the warship answered none of them. It simply drifted, steady and slow. Its silence louder than any threat. Some empires tried to resist with words. One emperor declared across the stars, "We are not slaves, we will never bow." But as his speech played, the warship appeared above his throne world. It did not fire. It did not destroy. It only hovered. Its shadow blanketed his skies. The people saw it, and their faith in him shattered instantly. Within a single day, the emperor was overthrown by his own people, and his world bent the knee to Earth. That was how the galaxy learned the final truth. Humanity did not need to conquer. It did not need to enslave. It only needed to be seen. The presence of the lone warship was enough. One ship and entire empires collapsed. In markets, merchants renamed their goods after Earth. In temples, priests replaced their gods with the image of the warship. And in secret, even admirals prayed not to their fleets but to humanity. Because the galaxy had learned that human silence was not weakness, it was power. And yet, deep within the fear, something else grew. A legend. Stories spread of the day the lone warship came. Children whispered it around dim fires, calling it the Black Leviathan, the Silent Judge, the Star Eater. Every name carried the same truth, that humanity had proven itself beyond fear, beyond defeat, beyond death. But the humans never claimed a throne. They never raised a flag across alien worlds. The warship did not build empires, it destroyed the idea of them. By showing the galaxy that one ship was stronger than 10,000. By showing that Earth, alone, was stronger than all. On the final day of its journey, the warship vanished. It faded back into the void, engines dimming, hull sinking into the shadows of deep space. No one saw where it went. No one knew if it had returned to Earth, or if it simply waited in the black. But its absence did not bring peace. It brought more fear, because now, at any moment, it could return. And so the galaxy trembled. Every empire, every soldier, every world lived under the weight of silence. They had seen what one human ship could do. They had seen how mercy could be worse than destruction. They had seen how humanity no longer needed armies, because one ship was enough. From that day forward, the galaxy told its children the same story. Do not mock humanity. Do not test Earth. Do not mistake silence for weakness. For somewhere in the black the warship waits, and if it returns, the stars themselves will tremble again.